Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parishscope. This is the podcast, the podcast based off of the newsletter for St. John Sam Prairie. I'm Pastor Chris Sansom,
and I'm Casey Jeremus. I'm the creative worship director at Our Savior Lutheran in Washington.
All right. Well, you and I, we were just talking about this, but it's like, it's hard to avoid it too much.
Mm-hmm.
You almost have to talk about it a little bit. The politics, it's everywhere.
Yes.
It's just everywhere. And so I felt like tonight would maybe be a good night to at least kind of, handle the topic a little bit. I don't want to talk about it too long because for a couple reasons. For one, I don't like my options. Can I say that? I'm going to say that. I just don't like my options. Mm-hmm. That they have out there, and it's kind of causing me to be like politically bitter. Like,
yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'll be the first to admit, like, I don't think I've ever had a candidate since I've been voting that I've really said, that's me. This is my guy. I just love him to death. He is the pinnacle of politicians or whatever.
Right.
But But these two, I mean, really, these two?
It's
like how old is Donald Trump? He's like 78 years old.
Is he really?
I think so. I think he's like 70.
Know.
He's got to be like 77, 78, something like that.
Yeah.
So he's up there, and he's kind of a loudmouth jerk.
Yeah.
Or we got Kamala. Am I saying her name right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I don't want to be rude. I'm not like. I don't want to like slander her name or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, what does she even stand for?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that she basically has gone back, like she's redacted her views on things.
Well, even when they
this
ask
is what
her,
I stand for,
yeah.
And then she goes like a year later, she's like, actually, I don't stand for that anymore. I stand for this. It's like, okay, well then what do you stand?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, but like even when they like question her and interview her, it's like she doesn't really say anything.
No, she doesn't at all.
She says 1,000 words to get to nowhere.
Yeah.
And so you really don't necessarily know exactly where she is. I mean, that from a political standpoint, she seems to be on the left.
Yeah.
It seems her big argument is that she's not Donald Trump.
That's really the only argument I think they have at this point.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating because
of course she was on The View and her big argument was she wasn't Joe Biden. So I mean, it's just
it was just
her argument is she's not people.
Yes.
She's not certain people.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's what it drives you crazy because just it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous and I have a hard time, at least with, not that I, like you said, don't really like either situation. I have a hard time when I've seen those clips and those interviews where she doesn't really say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit there and think, how can she have a meeting with a world leader,
right,
and say nothing? It's like you have to have some sort of like, and I don't like the loudmouth jerk, but it's just like, I know he's going to say something.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can really come up with is like, I know he'll say something. I know she won't say anything. So I don't know. Yeah. It's just hard. Like, I don't know. It's just,
it is. It's really hard. And, for the Christians that are out there, and I mean, this is a Christian podcast and, and ultimately what this boils down to, for a lot of things is, first of all, as Christians, we are called to be active citizens, within the country that we're involved in. Now, in the United States of America, that means we actually have a vote, mm-hmm. which means we have to actually think about this and dissect this and try to figure out exactly where we're going to lean. Now, the LCMS, believe it or not, is not going to tell you to vote one way or the other. Now, you and I, Casey, we've basically openly admitted on several occasions we tend to lean to the right.
Yeah.
I do. I think you do.
Yeah, I do.
And that is definitely. I like to disclose my bias, I guess I should say,
mm-hmm.
Because I definitely have it. I for sure have it.
Yeah.
And so I'll openly admit that, but the LCMS does not say, oh, you have to vote for this guy or that guy or whatever. It doesn't say you have to go one way or the other. A lot of times when it comes to voting, we usually put it down more to moral issues, like say abortion. Abortion's a big one. Like,
Yes.
pro-abortion tend to fall on the left. Pro-choice pro-life
Pro-life, yeah.
tend to fall on the right. Now, in terms of Christian values, we stand openly opposed to abortion.
Yeah.
We believe that life begins at conception, and that to end a life is murder, and so therefore we stand against abortion. Now you might say, well, but the left thinks that we should have abortion on demand everywhere, and doesn't that then by default make them evil? I think their reply to that, the rebuttal to that, might be that what they're really trying to do is increase the economics of a certain area, and it has been shown that it's only usually the lower class that get abortion. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but I think from a statistical standpoint, by and large, it is the lower class that tends to.
Yeah.
And so their basic point is that if they can, don't make abortion illegal, just change the economic structure. And if everybody is better off, then abortion should by default kind of go away.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be the argument that they go with. Whereas the right tends to say, no, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
We have other ways of handling the economics, but just get rid of it. And so that's why that's why it can be so confusing, because again, while I tend to fall on the right, the reality is you could see how a well-meaning Christian might say, yes, but I believe if they actually, while a well-meaning Christian might say, yes, I'm against abortion, I am for the economic policies of the left, and I think those will do more good, therefore causing less abortions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I disagree with them. I disagree with them, but I could see how somebody might, have an argument for that.
Well, I think the way I always see it is, that is true if the world was perfect.
Well, sure.
And that's kind of thing. Like it's like the idea of like communism is a great idea if it was perfect.
Yeah, on paper it seems to really work out well.
And so that's the whole thing about a lot of the policies that I get caught up on is I don't disagree that would be a great thing. Like, but the logistics and if it was a perfect world is a whole different thing. That's the where I kind of hit my what side I'm on, because it's not. Yeah, again, I don't disagree that I think it's a good idea, but it's not going to happen because I know human beings and we're not perfect, unfortunately, and it's going to get abused and it's not going to always go the way it was planned to go, unfortunately. So
yeah, and I also and again, purposefully showing my right-leaning bias here.
Yeah,
but I also disagree with their economic policies. I think in the end, the left, their economic policies are just not as good. Therefore, it's kind of a double whammy, for me. And I'd also say that the other thing that I really don't like, and I think I've said this before, I'm not sure if I have or not, but if not, I'll say this again. Like, I also think the left of today is not the left of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the most recent clips, in fact, I think actually Donald Trump used it as part of his ad.
Yeah,
is Bill Clinton talking? Did you see this or hear this?
He's been doing a lot of this where he's been playing clips of other people on the other side and being like, "I endorse this. I completely agree," because they're saying things that are conflicting with what Some of them are they're saying currently, and some of them are stuff from the past.
This is actually Trump pretty recently.
Yeah.
On the trail, campaigning for Kamala, for Harris.
Or Clinton recently.
Yeah, Clinton. Yeah, okay. Well, he was on the trail, and he said, he brings up this fact that this one gal got murdered by an illegal immigrant, or an immigrant, and basically he says part of the reason is because the immigrant was not vetted. And this probably wouldn't have happened if the immigrant had been vetted.
Right.
And so, like, that's one of, Trump's big things. And so, yeah, it's like, Trump, cuts off, and I support this message.
Yes.
Like I agree with this. But I think one of the things that is true And I do think it's true. Like if you ever listen to Clinton talk from like the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
like he sounds like in today's world he would be a conservative.
Uh-huh.
You know, go back in time. Look, I mean, I realized that he was as left as he could be at that time.
Yeah, right.
You know, but it does kind of show and reveal a little bit just how far, you know, things have gone in a certain direction. And there are certain things that that are happening that, I'll be honest, I really just can't condone, like the transgender stuff that's going on. I think that's a really confusing thing, and you know, and I think what some of these places are doing, and I mean, this isn't necessarily, you know, the left or the right. This is just certain people and places. What they're doing with the children really scares me.
Yeah, me too.
Quite a bit. And you know, and again, that's, I mean, I know politicians have certain stances on some issues and so on and so forth, but I think, you know, that's not even one of those. That's just like, yeah, some of the stuff that's going on is just sick to me. But I'd also say like the transgender issue, which is a hot button issue, is very much kind of a confusion of what God has designed a person to be.
I agree with you on that. I also find it sad because a lot of the times when people are promoting that, like to have surgery, do all these things, it's like you should love yourself. As long as you chop off part of your body and you do all these things, you take all these, you know, hormones,
and they're irreversible.
then you can love yourself, and everybody should love you. It's like, why shouldn't they love themselves, and why shouldn't people love you before that? I mean, it's just, you know, I don't know. Like, to me, and I know they're not saying people shouldn't love you before that, but it's just, it makes, honestly, I literally kind of tear up whenever I see a video of some kid who's like, I just can't live this way, and I'm gonna, you know, they start taking, like, their parents are giving them hormone pills and stuff, and because all I can think of is how sad it is that they don't love themselves.
Yeah,
that's just so sad to me. You know, I just, that kills me. You know, I hope my kids, raising them, I hope none of them hate themselves or hate being who they are. You know, that just would really make me sad. And I mean, I don't know how many people, you know, with other, I don't know, other things, like some of the people maybe listening or being at the church might have gone through stuff similar, maybe not transgender, but just things about, you know, dealing with maybe a child who wasn't happy with who they were. And that's just, it's so sad because they should be, they should love who they are, and they should, you know, see that God made them special and made them unique in some way, and that they can use like their own experiences, the good and the bad experiences, and someday that'll make them who they are and hopefully into a good person, you know?
So now here's a question. I realize we're kind of going off brand or off topic now. I mean, we've talked about voting, and I mean, you know, by and large, everybody, you know, as an American citizen, I hope that you guys take the endeavor to go out and vote, research your candidate, see what they stand for, see what they don't stand for. You know, vote your values, as we sometimes say. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Again, you know, Casey and I, we've kind of, you know, kind of laid out our own bias a little bit. But definitely keep your Christianity and your morals and all of that, and really think about who you want to be in office. But kind of going down this rabbit hole of transgender stuff. What do you think the cause of all this is? I mean, it's not just because, it's acceptable nowadays. That's not it. I mean, look, I always say it like this, like you go back in time, again, going back in time, go back to the late 80s, the early 90s, mid 90s. I remember like Crocodile Dundee makes a joke.
Yeah.
Out of basically a drag queen in essence in the very first Crocodile Dundee movie. And hilarity ensued.
Yeah.
And it was like they were so, it was such a rare thing. And it was not necessarily condoned by society, but now it's like we've flipped it all over, and it's like now not only is it condoned, it's almost promoted. And it's like this is one of the things that really does honestly bug me a little bit. It's like it's one thing it's one thing to say, okay, we need to be able to accept a person that is like this. Okay,
of course,
fine. You know, I'm not going to necessarily, you know, disagree with that. Again, I can disagree with them, But, if that's the way they decide to live their life and they're 40 years old, like,
Yeah.
look, again, not much I can do. It's a free country. Really, it is. We're a free
Yes.
country. But to almost condone it, to almost promote it,
Yeah.
like, it seems awkwardly wrong to me. Like, just certain aspects of things like this are just wrong.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It is weird because I think that there is, at least to me, I've seen many people or many kids since I've done these maternity leaves and things like that. And, typically, when I've met a few kids who kind of talk about, or they want to be called a different name because they want to be identified more as a boy now or whatever. And every time that's happened, it's always somebody who seems to be in a very confusing place.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, which I guess is natural, because if you want to change your gender, you want to change something, you're confused in general. I mean, there's something confusing about that. But the thing, I've just never seen someone who is 100% happy in life, but they're just like, no, but I just know this is what I need to do. It doesn't ever really seem that way. Like, it's a natural. To me, it always seems like this is a quick. I mean, it's not really quick, but in their mind, it's a quick way to just like get rid of all their old problems.
Sure.
Like, if I just change this about myself, then everything will go away, and I can just become this new thing, and I can run away from whatever it is that's hard or difficult for me. And I think
that's interesting.
I mean, that's just what I think. The rise in this has become more and more popular because it's kind of being accepted, and it's an easy way to say, well, I don't like who I am, so I'm just going to go do this, and maybe that'll like make me happy, but the problem is they're finding is that a lot of people aren't happy, and they're getting to this point where now they feel like a freak or something because they don't look the way they thought they were going to look. They're not feeling good about themselves. They're starting to have all these medical issues because they're pumping them full of
all kinds of
thing
stuff
that should not be in their body. And it's just, I mean, again, if I ever met someone who, said they were transitioned or whatever, I have no reason to run after them with a pitchfork or be mean to them.
No.
I would never do that. But it's just the fact of when I see it, especially kids start talking about how they wish they were different, and it just kills me because they're not seeing, the days of like Mr. Rogers saying you were made special and you should love who you are, and like all these these encouraging things about being who you are and learning who you are, all those things. It's like that's kind of like being thrown out the window. It's like, could you imagine Mr. Rogers changing his tennis shoes and then saying like, put on a new sweater and then being like, if you don't feel happy, you should talk to a medical professional.
Yeah.
And talk about gender transitioning and it's like, that would just be so weird, but it's like becoming I don't know. It's becoming something that's promoted a lot, and it's kind of
it is a very interesting cultural shift.
Yeah.
And again, and I firmly believe it's I firmly believe it's a confusion of what God has created you to be.
Yeah.
And so I firmly believe that. Now I do think, I always say this, like sin in our lives, in the confessions, in our Book of Concord, our Confession of Faith, it flat out says that it's almost like a disease. So it like corrupts. And you think of like, children can be born with a disease.
Yes.
And so I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea that some people at a genetic level just feel off, like feel wrong.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean we should promote it. Just like if somebody has a disease, you don't say, well, I hope this really gets worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't necessarily promote it. But what I'm saying is like if some genetic study came out and said, well, this is actually genetically what's going on, I'd go, oh, okay, that makes some kind of sense. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it to where I should promote it. But you go, oh, okay, that makes some kind of sense. And I've brought this up before. There was a study done in the 80s that found that people that had an extra Y chromosome. See, so a female is an XX chromosome, a male is an XY chromosome. there are certain males that have an extra, like, half a Y chromosome.
Yeah.
And they did this study and found that a higher percentage of people that were in prison for violent crime had that extra Y chromosome. And so they did this study and they said, well, this is, these guys are all, they're violent because of that extra Y chromosome. And as they furthered the study, they said, no, we need to back up because the bias would then be like, okay, well, maybe we should preemptively, like, arrest people with, say, Y chromosomes, like the extra Y. And it's like, that's inaccurate. You shouldn't do that, because by and large, the bulk majority of people that have the extra Y chromosome live their life normal and they're nonviolent, and
Right.
it doesn't make them do anything, yada yada yada. But what I always say is, like, what would have happened if you, say, would have found out that it's true?
Yeah.
We're not going to run around and say, oh, no, they can beat you up. They got the extra chromosome.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
It might help to explain why they have such a bad temperament, but it doesn't make the fact that they have that temperament okay.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes here. If you found somebody, or if you found out that there was an actual genetic reason why certain people felt compelled to be transgender, I wouldn't be shocked by it.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to endorse it, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not going to say, oh, yeah, this is really good. This is what they should do. Fill them full of hormones, do some major surgery on them. It's all good. Like, no. I think we'll have to find different, better approaches. And again, I mean, this is all, I know this is a big hot button issue and everything, but I mean, again, I think this is actually important. But I do also think that it's important as Christians that we understand that it's not only acceptable and good, but it's something that we should strive towards, to be able to hold conversations with people that we wildly disagree with.
Yes.
And I think that is incredibly missing in today's world. Like, look, again, you and I have kind of stated some opinions. I would have no problem sitting here talking to somebody who held wildly different opinions than me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be rude to them, and I wouldn't be mean to them. And, and that's not to say I'm perfect. Hey, everybody has an off night, but by and large, it wouldn't be an issue if we're just having a conversation. But I'm not sure. I wonder how many people in our world right now, or in our country, can actually do that.
Yeah, it's encouraged almost to not be, like, I remember I made this very long post. This was, I wonder if it was the first election with Trump or something, but but it was kind of this whole thing about how, well, all these people have been asking me, so I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna tell people, and then I put, like, in parentheses, like, no one's actually asked me, but I'm just gonna talk about it because I want to. And then it was kind of like, the whole thing was about how my rage. And how, I need to show everybody how mad I am, because that is going to prove how, how in tune I am with, like, the political views that are going on, because I'm so angry. And I'm not gonna listen to other people, because I'm just gonna yell at other people. And thankfully, anybody who agrees with me is gonna like this post. I'm gonna feel like I made a difference, even though they already agreed with me anyway. So and, like, it's a big long thing, and like, and the funny part is I had people who were like, I didn't even say a political view. Yeah, it was a generic, like, nothing actually was said. Just like Kamala Harris. No, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just joking.
Well played, sir.
Well
played.
It just came to me anyway. But the funny part is, I had one person in particular, a relative. They were, like, just enraged that I was just, oh, this isn't, I can't believe you would even act like this isn't funny. And it's hilarious, because his comments were like, that's exactly what the joke was. You're so angry at something, and you don't even know what you're angry about. You're just angry that I think he was just angry that it was like, it kind of made him look like a fool.
Call him out,
And so I think that's what he was mad about. But it was just funny, because I didn't say a political view. I just made this generic, hey, if I'm angry enough, that must mean I'm right? Which is not.
And
I think, being able to, like, keep yourself calm is a very and be able to talk to people who don't agree with you. I shared this with you last week, but I didn't say it on the podcast. So I try to tread lightly with this stuff. But some people, or if you listen to the podcast, know I have a Power Ranger YouTube channel.
Yes, you
and
do.
I made a video about there's a very, very famous feud between two actors who are on Power Rangers. And there's very much a desire for people to take a side. And really,
That's right.
neither one of them were perfect people. Neither one, they both kind of did things that were kind of crummy. And at this point in time, it's like, let's just stop, because neither one of them were perfect. I don't know why people are taking sides. Well, that really, I kind of called out. I don't know. When I say called out, I showed examples of a few people who were really going after one of these actors. One of them has passed away, and that's kind of why it's like, let's just drop it. One's gone, no reason. So I got asked to come on a live stream, and the live stream basically was 45 minutes of this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, riling up the whole audience. So by the time I come on, they're all like, screw this guy, he's horrible. Like, they were just so enraged, and I hadn't even said a word yet to him.
Yeah.
And I smiled the whole time. I just, and honestly, the whole time I just kept thinking, I'm a Christian. This is just, something I got to do. And at the end of this, hour long thing where they just basically wouldn't let me talk and just kept saying I was wrong about everything. They kind of were like, well, you have anything else to say? And I said, well, my whole point was that we all need to just kind of let things lie, and we need to, we can try to get along. We don't have to all, maybe you don't like this person, but me and you don't have to fight about that. It's not anything against us. And I just said, I'm a Christian and this is what I believe. And, and actually, funny enough, the guy who passed away, who all these people are like trying to sort of defend his honor, he was a Christian. And it's like, he wouldn't have liked the way you guys are acting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet you're all still fired up and like, we're so angry and we're so mad and we're justice for this guy. No, he wouldn't have liked this. He was a Christian. He would not have liked the way you're acting. And so it's just, it's an interesting, but that ability, like, that's helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
Is to be able to just sit and not react in a way of like screaming back at them.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of moments where I think some people would have lost their cool, but it's just, the more calm you
and I'll be honest. I'll be openly and honest about this. There have been times where I have not been my best.
Mm-hmm.
There are times whenever I look back and I go, wow, I really was able to handle that well. Maybe I could have done a little bit better here or there. But then there's other times where I look back and I go, man, I'm an idiot. I'm really bad at this whole thing. But like I said, we all have our off nights and our on nights, but I think one of the things that we should strive towards is being able to do that. And to be fair, you might be surprised by how much you actually learn, even on the other perspective of things. I'm not saying you're going to agree with all their stuff, but you might learn a little bit that you didn't know before. And maybe you'll start to see their argument in a little bit different light. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Again, you can still disagree with them, and you can still vote differently than say what you might, what they will want you to. But at the same time, it's like you might find yourself having a little bit of a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it's interesting because I did have a guy, this was years ago, but a friend of mine who's now not, who has passed away since, but we didn't agree politically on things. He was a lot older than me, but he
didn't know what he's talking about.
He didn't know what he was talking about. No. Yeah. But the thing is, one time we were just, I don't know, we were talking, and he explained why he, as a Christian, felt the way he did to vote, like the opposite of what I would vote.
Yeah.
And I, even though there's certain, he placed more value on certain topics than I would.
For sure.
And I was kind of like, you explained why, and I respect why you think that way. Of course, I'm not, I wasn't like changed, like, well, now I'm going to go with what you say. But it was kind of like, I at least had the respect that he knew why he wanted to vote that way.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just kind of like, well, they seem like a fun person to have a beer with or something.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I hate when people say stuff like that, because it's like, okay, just because they seem like a fun person, or whatever you want to say, it's like I hope there's actual issues. But yeah, he explained to me why he as a Christian felt that way, or why he thought that's the way he should vote. And it's like, okay, well, I'm glad you at least put the thought into it, and know why you feel that way.
Well,
So,
I mean, and again, not to go back in time to like politics, but like I kind of felt a lot like that with Obama. Like I saw the draw. I saw why so many people just absolutely loved Obama. And to kind of go back to the whole, you can have a beer with him, and I like a good beer. I could have had a beer with Obama. I absolutely could have. He seemed like a very pleasant man to kind of sit down and talk to. Especially on the very casual nights and stuff when they'd like kind of have those shots and stuff with him. Like he seemed very casual, very at ease, and very nice, and not like he's mean or a jerk.
Yeah.
Now, did I disagree with the bulk majority of Obama's policies? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But I did think he seemed like a nice guy. He did seem like a kind of guy I could have a beer with. So I could see the draw on that front with him. And I also saw some of his argumentation for why he wanted to do certain things. Now, again, I disagreed with that.
Right.
But at least I could see the argumentation.
Now, I got a question for you, because you would know more than I about this, but the argument a lot of times stands with sort of, well, the things they've said, they're just not Christian, and the way they act is not Christian, so I can't vote for someone who acts that way because I'm a Christian. What, as someone who really studies and really, pays attention to theology, what's the first thing in your head when you hear someone say something like that? Are you like, well, I guess you're right?
Well, my problem is which one do you vote for then? Because they both fit that bill.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not gonna sit here on a Christian podcast and say just because I happen to lean to the right that Donald Trump is some really good Christian. He's not.
No.
He never has been. And I think the few times when he's attempted to pretend to be, I think he's come off worse than what, those have been some of his biggest blunders, is when he tries to pretend like he's a Christian.
Yeah.
Again, his policies that he wants to enact, and I'm not talking about economic per se, but a lot of his policies in terms of like, moral issues and issues of value, and like abortion and the like, I tend to agree with more than I do with Miss Harris. Now, that being said, I don't think Harris is necessarily a good Christian either.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know, I know Biden's Catholic.
Yeah, but see, now what I hear people a lot of times say is just like, well, they just don't act, it's the way they act. So like, if Kamala, she's not saying something nasty about somebody, then she must be the better candidate. I mean, is that for you? Again, it's like, theologically, if someone seems like a jerk, does that mean we can't vote for them? Or if they like,
again, if you had somebody who was clearly a Christian,
yeah,
and who acted like a Christian and who voted like a Christian. I mean, look, let's say you had somebody that was very heavily on the left in terms of economic policy. That means they believed in trickle up economics, but they were also, say, against abortion.
Yeah.
And they believed, that in God's gift, in terms of defining a person who they were and such like that. In this polarized argumentation, I'd have a really hard time not voting for that person, even though from an economic standpoint,
you disagree.
I disagreed with them. I disagreed with their economic policy, but on their moral and values, I would have a really hard time not voting for that person because they stood for so much that was at my core.
Yeah.
But that's not what we have.
Yeah.
And that's not our options. Either we have one person who's a little bit more polished, who doesn't say as much, but she doesn't say as much. Yeah. She hardly says anything.
Yeah.
And from a policy standpoint, she seems to be, a little laxing on the moral issues and values, especially in terms of what she wants to vote for and she wants to enact. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who sometimes pretends to be a Christian, but most of the time really doesn't care what you think. Kind of a jerk, kind of bombastic, I guess, maybe a good way to put it. And in his life, he has absolutely not lived up to any type of moral code.
No.
However, his policies tend to fit more of a moral code. And again, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You go vote for who you vote for, but this is the way I'm visualizing it. And again, maybe you have different eyes. Maybe you're looking at it differently. Like I kind of said, early on with abortion, there is another view out there. Yeah. I'm not going to say I agree with it, but I've talked to people, and this is one of the things that they've kind of explained to me. And so I'm going to pass it on. Yeah, there is a way that, certain Christians view that. And again, don't hold it on your conscience. Just research and see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's, I don't know. It's just,
but again, it's not like we have this clear Christian choice. We don't.
That's true. Yeah.
We don't have a clear Christian choice. And so you're choosing one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, I think, claim Christianity, but neither one really lives it out.
Yeah.
So which one do you want?
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
And again, I'm it's kind of a bad or worse. Which one?
Right.
Or maybe it's worse and worse. I don't even know.
Yeah. It's just, there's I know. I don't know. There's not, unfortunately, that's pretty much it. I don't know. There's just, but
yeah, I feel like, you talk too much about politics. You're gunning to get in trouble. And I certainly, I don't want to do that, obviously. And again, this is a Christian podcast. I want to keep it, more or less Christ-centered. But we are getting into election season, and this is important to people, and it does weigh on their conscience. And there's a lot of people out there that feels like the church is going to tell them they have to vote one way or the other. And that's a part of the reason I wanted to bring it up, is just to say, no, we're not. Yeah. I think it needs to be researched. It needs to be studied. I think you need to, investigate, your candidates and decide who you want to vote for.
Yeah.
But we're never going to ask you at church who you voted for and then determine something based on that.
Yeah.
We're just not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's this, let's see, there's a song do you ever listen to the OC Supertones? You know who they are?
Absolutely not. I've never even heard of them.
Okay, so they're an old Christian ska band from back in the early 2000s.
You just stop right there.
Yeah.
You just stop. You're making me feel really old right now. You're like, they're an old Christian ska band.
Well, let me put it this way. The guys...
Like, when you said old, I was thinking 50s, 40s.
50s. I mean...
Maybe you pulled out some old records from the 30s, and then you say ska band. I'm just like, oh, no.
Well, now
I think I just gained 5 gray hairs.
Now let's not get to a little information for people who maybe don't know. Ska is one of those. I had a ska band in high school. Ska is one of those things where it has had resurgences, where there was like an 80s resurgence, a 90s, a 2000s.
Can I just say this too? You're making it sound like the plague.
Well, I mean, you could kind of look at it.
We thought we got rid of the plague, and then it came back.
It does kind of sound
much like the ska bands.
Well, let's just put it this way: ska's never been mainstream. It's always like it starts getting like kind of a scene, and then it kind of dies out.
So you're
and
saying
then
it's like emo.
Yeah, it kind of. It's just like that. But the OC Supertones were they were a Christian ska band. Probably like late 90s, early 2000s, and they just had this whole song that's like, I'm not a. It's real fast, and they say like, I'm not a rocker, I'm not a this, I'm not a that, and it's like it says like I'm not a Republican, a Democrat, but it's just talking about their children of God first. That's the first thing, and so. I think especially when we get into politics and it gets into dicey territory, it's like I hope we can all remember that our first priority is being a Christian.
Yeah.
If for some reason out of nowhere it's like the America was just gone or like it didn't exist anymore, it's like we would be. I don't know. Like if America just disappeared all of a sudden overnight, there's no America. It's like where would you go? I feel like I'd go to the church. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like that's where my I put my foundation and everything. And so I don't know, but that's just to remember. That's the main thing we should be focused on is making sure that we're Christians first. And
absolutely. And we can, again, part of the reason we started this podcast was because I wanted to bring a format where you and I especially could sit and talk about some of these issues. Because, again, I might talk about something like abortion or transgenderism in a sermon or two, but by and large, they're not lengthy discussions.
Yeah.
This format gives us a chance to actually like talk it out and actually listen at times and just really kind of give a format where we could actually kind of say our piece a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe, hopefully somebody learns something. And even if they don't, like, hopefully they at least get a chance to pay attention.
Yeah.
And listen. And by golly, they can text me later.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I know we also kind of, I hate to break us away from politics, but I feel like we have to a little bit because, and you brought this up as well. See, you're just like, I'm bringing nothing to the table tonight.
You are?
Apparently, because
you brought.
I feel like you brought up the first thing, and now you're bringing up the second thing. And I'm like, yes, we're talking about Halloween. It's coming up.
It's coming.
It's coming up. Now, we had a Halloween special last time.
We did have a Halloween special.
Now, if I remember correctly, that was pretty much all about candy, wasn't it?
Yeah, we talked about what our favorite candy is, all that sort of stuff. Which that was, I think, that was a jarring one. I think it was fun.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
and just an update because I think I mentioned it on the show last time that I wanted to make my own candy corn.
Oh yeah.
Just an update. I have not done that yet.
Oh.
I have still not made my own candy corn.
Maybe maybe you have to get into that candy corn. That's the one you want to make.
I want to make it. I want to make my own candy corn.
Interesting. All right. I'm excited to see that. Whenever it happens.
Now, one of the things that we talked about last time was like Christian roots of Halloween.
Yeah.
And how it's actually All Hallows Eve. So it's actually on the eve of All Saints Day. And some of the misguided Christian traditions that kind of erupted out of that.
Yes.
And so, we did talk a little bit about that.
Reminder that I was one of those people, we didn't do Halloween.
Oh, that's right.
I never did Halloween. So that's where I'm at.
That's right.
But that's why it was kind of like, but of course we did not grow up with like Halloween's a satanic holiday. That was not what was ever really said. It was, hey, this is just something we do to honor, it's like it's more, I mean, it's kind of like fasting or something like that sort of thing. It's just more of a, like, we're doing this just as like to kind of recognize our Christianity. Not that people who do Halloween are doing something evil and satanic. That's not really, that wasn't really how it was taught to me. But anyway, to move on from that, sorry, go ahead with what you're saying. I was just gonna throw that in there.
Well, I just kind of wanted to do a refresher a little bit, but we kind of talked about All Hallows Eve and all that, ancient Christian traditions and all that kind of fun and exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it kind of brings up like what are your views on things like Ghost, right? Ghosts they play a big role in Halloween.
Yes.
We got Casper the Friendly Ghost. We have
we
have horror movies that feature ghosts and departed souls and the like. But it always begs the question. I can't remember if we've ever discussed this or not. We were just talking about that too. Like, how much of this have we discussed already?
I know, it's so hard to remember.
And what is this, like episode 40 or something?
Yeah, we're getting up there, yeah.
Yeah, so this is episode 40. So maybe we talked about it. Maybe we didn't. You know what? If we did, it's okay. We're just going to hit it again.
Hopefully you forgot.
Yeah, maybe you forgot. It was a year ago.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So Ghost. What do we do with that? What do we do? So many people all the time say, I saw a ghost.
Yes.
So what do we do with that?
I don't know. I mean, it is a funny question because it's just, I don't know. It's hard because on one hand, it's like, do we believe in like people's spirits staying here and like they're not really in heaven? I don't know. It's like, what, is there really a purgatory where the Catholics right, and the purgatory is just being a ghost on her? I don't know.
Oh, man.
Who knows? Lots of theories.
You brought up purgatory of all things.
Lots of theories out there. Who knows? I don't know. I've never really had a ghost encounter myself.
Okay. No ghost encounter.
I mean, because people who like, they feel like they've had a ghost encounter. I've never had one. And whenever there's been something where like, oh, there's this weird noise, I always like find like, oh, there's like a dripping faucet or something in the basement that's causing this weird sound, or so like there's always like something I've always found whatever that weird thing was. So it wasn't like, I wasn't like, oh, there's a ghost. Every time I go to bed, I hear this like this clicking or something,
So I only have one real experience.
Okay. I want to hear it.
And it actually has to do with a glowing tombstone.
A glowing tombstone.
A glowing tombstone. This happened way back when I was a freshman or sophomore in college, home for the summer, I think, or whatever, working in my deli, the deli in Beaufort, Missouri. And a group of us decided to go because we had heard tell of this glowing tombstone.
Oh.
And it was in Japin, Missouri. Now, that's spelled like Japan.
Oh, is
but
it?
It's not Japan. It's
Japin.
Japin.
That sounds. What's so funny is that they've taken something that is Japanese and turned it into the most Missouri. Japin, Missouri. Going to Japin, Missouri.
And we went to the gravesite, the graveyard, I guess, and middle of the night, which is already kind of a spooky
thing.
Oh,
that is spooky. Yeah.
And we're going up, and you could see it from a distance. Now, I'll be honest, I was a little spooked. I did not get close, but there were some people that got close. And what was really fascinating about it is when they got too close, it would quit glowing.
Whoa.
But then when they'd back away, it would start glowing again.
Whoa.
And it was definitely like lit up. It was like a tombstone that's lit up. Now, maybe I was punked. I don't know. Maybe I go back and forth on that one. Because honestly, when I got older, I've been back and I can't find it.
Oh, really?
The tombstone doesn't glow anymore or something. I don't even know.
Oh.
The joke is that I'm an ordained pastor now, so now it can't
so
glow.
The spirits
can't glow in my presence.
That's hilarious.
I ruin all the haunted fun. But yeah, so that's kind of like my claim to fame. My claim to fame.
Your claim to fame.
My one element that I have is I mean again, I saw it. The tombstone definitely glowed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you why, when, or how, or any of that kind of stuff. I couldn't say any of that, but
yeah.
I can just say that from a distance as I watched it, it glowed. But again, maybe I was being punked by the people that were with me. It was a group. But it does kind of bring up some of those questions, like what do you do with ghosts?
Yeah.
And actually, I'll bring this up. Now here we go. Now we're going to go into a much wilder topic. I'm not going to give away too much, but
okay.
Let's just say that in my ministry, I have had a person or two kind of I shouldn't say dabble. They thought they might be demonically possessed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, the first time I ever ran across this in ministry, I kind of freaked out a little bit.
Yeah.
Seminary doesn't really teach you a lot of exorcisms.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's something that they teach really like heavily. And so what I did is I had a professor who told us, when we were in class, that he had a son-in-law that kind of dealt with this. And so I called him up, and then he gave me the number of his son-in-law, and I talked to him, and then I talked to some other guy in like Iowa or something. And I got all kinds of resources, and I just read and read and read and read and read. And, and I'll be honest, I've always said this, like, you kind of, whenever you get into like demonic possession and stuff, there's basically 3 tiers of books. And the first tier is pretty much a joke. They're funny. Like everything is a demon.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'll give you a good example because this is really popular, but Frank Peretti is a great example of this. Frank Peretti wrote the book Into Darkness.
I thought that was the name of the demon. Frank Peretti.
No, he wrote a book called Into the Darkness. But like, in one of the first chapters, like the demon keeps making his lawnmower not start. Oh. It's like he's got the lawnmower not starting demon. And, but the point is like everything becomes this demon, and everything becomes spiritual warfare. A big book that came out in like the 70s called Pigs in a Parlor is kind of a big attribute of this. Like you turn to that book, and I've read it. I have it. It's at my house, but it's like right in the middle of it. It's got like 3 pages with like 3 columns on it, single spaced, of all the types of demons you can get.
Yeah.
It's like there's a gazillion and one, and it's like almost every ailment you could possibly think of is somehow in some way a demon.
Yeah.
And so it's like I said, it's kind of a joke. You got kind of the second tier, and these guys are maybe a little bit more serious, but they're still kind of the light that like everything is a demon. Maybe not quite as bad. And then you kind of have the third tier, which is honestly the books that I tended to gravitate towards the most. And these guys are more the very serious, like, let's handle this theologically. Let's actually talk about this. They don't deny it. They kind of look at it, and I some of their books were really, really good. Some of them are just downright out of print. They're hard to get. There was one guy in Germany during like World War II that like did research on it.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of fascinating. I read some of his stuff. That he's kind of a wild fella.
Yeah.
Osterreich was his name. I got a big red book on my shelf. It just says Possession.
Possession.
That's what it says. The book is so scary looking, and then you start reading it, and you're like, this is like actually really boring. It's like his scientific notes.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But by and large, some of the things I found out were really fascinating. First of all, let me just say I don't like the Warrens. And for those of you that are going, who are the Warrens? Have you ever seen the movie The Conjuring or Annabelle or any of these? They are following two types of a married couple that did a lot of exorcisms called the Warrens.
Oh, okay.
And their books read like fiction. Mm-hmm. They were definitely in either the first or the second category. I almost want to put them in the second category because I think they were kind of serious, but at the same time, it was like their books were so outlandish.
Yeah. Like
it was just like this is. There's one I forget I think it's called like Before the Night or something like that. And it was kind of outlandish too, but it was a little bit more serious and down to earth than some of like Pigs in a Parlor was terrible. But one of the things that reading through all of these, and especially those in the, dare I say, like the tier 3 level that I kind of read was basically that, and this is where it applies to this. It's like, one of the big arguments in some of the books was that like ghosts aren't real. Mm-hmm. What they are is some form of force that is ultimately trying to mess with you. And so think about it in terms of demons. And, by the way, this is one of the things, and I realized like, hey, this is Halloween, so this is supposed to be a little scary. But like, you realize that like demons don't follow a playbook like the movies. Mm-hmm. A demon doesn't have to make you jump off a cliff or make you turn your head backwards or make you jump on a wall or vomit all over the place. That's not winning.
Yeah.
Winning to a demon is to subtly push you towards either atheism or abandoning your faith or abandoning your hope. That's their goal.
Yeah.
Which actually, to be honest with you, makes some kind of sense. That's also part of the reason, in my opinion, why you don't see it much in America today. Mm-hmm. Because that's the mood of the culture. The culture is abandoning the church.
Yeah.
So, ironically, if a demon was to pop up, it would basically, it would act as a proof of God. Well, that's no good. You can't have that.
Yeah.
Like, a demon's not going to do that. However, one of the things, and I read this in several different books and several different elements where they would basically say, hey, every encounter that we know of where somebody encountered a ghost, if they stuck with it long enough, it would begin to challenge their faith. So, and I remember one story I read, the guy was talking to his grandma who had passed away.
Okay.
And he lived in her house and he talked to her. And, and at first it was really innocent, yada, yada, yada. But, he felt very comfortable. It was his, mama or whatever, but after a while, mama started saying, this God stuff wasn't real. I thought it was going to be real, but here I am dead, yada, yada, yada. And all this kind of stuff. In another account, like they had a person who thought that she had a friendly ghost, but when she refused to stop going to church, it tried to choke her.
Oh.
And so it's like in all these cases, it's like, you have these supposed ghosts where people are seeing these apparitions, and it's like, okay, but if they stick with the apparitions long enough,
it goes south. Yeah.
It goes south. And it's always from a religious perspective.
Yeah.
Again, Mama's not trying to kill, the guy. Mama is trying to convince him that
God isn't real.
That God isn't real and death is a hoax and something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's what you would do if you were trying to really get someone.
I mean, again, this is one of the reasons that, like, honestly, and maybe we should do this as a high school class, is like just read the Screw Tape letters.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've never read that, but I mean, I remember the book. I remember hearing people talk about it.
Yeah, it's basically like two demons talking about how best to basically convince Christians that Christ isn't real and all this stuff, and it's like basically denounce Christianity. So it's like a it kind of gets you that negative perspective. But honestly, like so I've come to believe that most real ghosts that we see. Now, first of all, if you watch these ghost hunters, unless the demon is really, really bad at their job, they will never appear on camera. Because again, they don't want to.
Yeah, of course.
Because for them to appear on camera is actually going to act as something that persuades people towards Christianity. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
They're not going to risk that. They would much rather mess with you at night or wherever or whenever, when no cameras are rolling.
Yeah.
And whatever. So I don't necessarily discount people. Some people say they saw a ghost. I don't necessarily discount it, but I discount it in the idea that it's probably not, some person who passed away 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 20 years ago. That's probably not what that is. It might be pretending to be, but it's probably not what it really is.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily discount it and say, oh, that doesn't really happen. Maybe it does.
Yeah.
But again, in every case, that seems to be the case.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I'm not like someone who's like, oh, I don't believe in ghosts in the sense of like, I think they're around. But I will say there have been a few times back in my days when I was working for Kidder, and I was a road rep, that I would be there at like really weird times. Like I'd be there at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'd hear noises, and I'd be like, don't be coming. I would like openly be going like, I'm not in the mood for this. Don't you be like that. I would talk. I mean, because, better safe than sorry. But I'm like, not really, into that. But yeah, I don't know. It is so interesting. There was I'm not going to get into that story just because it's just when I was in high school, there were some people who they would claim that they saw a demon.
Yeah.
Like just a demon came to them and said like, you better not go to church anymore. And they're like, and they told me that. And then, I said like, no way. And you're like, okay. And you're like, all right.
Yeah.
And I hate to be a skeptical person, but I was just like, I don't know. That's a pretty strange story of like why they didn't do anything to you. They just said, don't go to church anymore. I'm a demon. Yeah. Don't go to church. Like that seems a little weird to me. Like, so.
Well, I mean, again, but I think one of the things that one of the problems that a lot of people face, and by the way, a lot of non-Christians face this as well. And that is to say that when they do want to say, okay, let's seek out God, so to speak, they like try to put God in a box. Like they can put him under a microscope. And like, you can't think of God like that.
No.
And what I mean by that is that like, imagine somebody wants to study you. And so they take your hand and they say, we're going to put this under a microscope, but you decide that you don't want to be studied.
Yeah.
You just pull your hand back.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that's going to force you to keep your hand under the microscope. You just say, no, I don't want that. You pull your hand back. Same thing goes on here, right? Sometimes we act like demons have to do exactly what we want them to do, as if they're stupid creatures that are wandering around going, I don't know what I'm going to do. No, they're ungodly, vile things. And they have one goal in mind.
Yeah.
And so, no, if you are a well-meaning Christian, they're not going to appear to solidify your faith.
Yeah.
In fact, you will probably never see them ever, because they understand that.
Yeah.
They're never going to do anything that's going to help you become more faithful. What they're going to do is they're going to, torment somebody else who won't use it to their faith. And by the way, again, you see this. And even from a synodical standpoint, we do have a couple books that come out from one of our foreign missionaries that actually handles exorcisms quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I know the first book is called Don't Be Afraid. And I forget what the other one is, but anyway, the point is like, you do see this, and you especially see this in other countries.
Yeah.
In other places. But not necessarily a lot in America. You do see them in America, but not necessarily, again, if the devil is trying to get you to avoid Christianity and you avoid Christianity, he's won. Like, he's already got you. Like that's it. Like, that's what he wants. So anyway, again,
Amazing.
it's. But again, I wanted to get into that because people talk like, what about ghosts? What are they?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are probably out there going, no, I want to hold on to my belief, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But the Bible's pretty clear. Like when you pass away, you either are in the arms of Jesus or you are, dare I say, imprisoned. It's kind of instantaneous in a sense. So
no purgatory.
No purgatory.
Okay, well,
sorry.
There we go.
Sorry. By the way, purgatory, the Catholic belief that you have to go somewhere to purge your sins.
Yes.
That is to say, you are a Christian, but you are still a sinner, and therefore you have to go someplace to work off your sin, your debt, your sin debt.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's right. Now I will say, in the happiness of Halloween, what's great about the Halloween season?
Candy corn.
I'm not jumping into that myself, but you like the candy corn. That's all for you.
I don't love it, but I like
don't
it.
Love it.
Well, that's why I want to make it, because I think I can make it better.
Oh, okay. Well, I would be excited to try it if you make it better.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, because what's so great about the Halloween season, costumes being at stores, and especially like Goodwill's, is that there's a lot of Power Ranger costumes. And they're for cheap. So my kids' dress up area has expanded quite a bit.
Oh, that's where it's at right there.
Yeah, we're finding vintage stuff. We're finding things from 6, 7 years, 10 years ago. It's been great.
You know what I always love, and we don't have a Spirit Halloween in Pekin this year, by the way.
You don't?
I know. Talk about a super sad day, right?
Whoa, that's amazing.
Super sad day. But what I always cracks me up is you get these things that are like dress up to be a priest or whatever.
We talked about this.
And it's like, I think the last year the clergy shirt was like $25.
Yeah.
While at the same time a real clergy shirt that didn't look awful was on sale at Autumn for $19.95. And it's like, I can get the real thing with 3 collars, so 2 extra, for $19.95. Or I can go to your store and buy a fake one that looks atrocious for $25.
I think, though, you need to get one. And the week of Halloween on Sunday, you should wear it. And just see if anybody really says anything. I
just feel like it would be awful looking. They look awful.
They're usually, at least, I don't know, they're usually like too shiny. Or like, too whatever.
Well, they always make the band too big, too.
Oh, really? Like proportionally?
Proportionally, it's awful.
That's funny. I think you need to get one. I think you need to get one.
I tell you what, if I can find one, I might get one this year, but I am not wearing it to church.
Oh.
I'm not putting the people through that.
What would be great is if you ever did like a trunk or treat. Do you do one at Good Shepherd?
Yeah, Good Shepherd does one.
You should do it, and you should wear it to that. And be like, hey, I dressed up as a pastor this, for Halloween. That would be hilarious. I think,
oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah. So, no, that's great. No, it's great. Actually, today I just saw somebody posted a Power Ranger outfit with the it's not a helmet, but it's like the mask, But we have the costume. We don't have the helmet, but they also had a sword that's from a different thing that we have the costume for, but we don't have the sword. But they were two different costumes. $5. I was like, I'm taking this right now. I'm getting it. So we completed two costumes with
over the years
buy.
You're just going to complete all of them. That's what it comes down to.
That's it. I love it because people, they use them for a year and then they sell them for nothing. And I'm like, I'll take this. This is fun. It feeds my ridiculous need to collect things, and it's for my kids. So I have a great excuse, and it makes me just not feel guilty.
That's too funny.
But
oh man!
All right, is there anything else with Halloween or anything, or are you looking up the trunk or treat date?
I am. I'm trying to look it up. I really am. I'm trying to look it up. Let's see here if I'm looking at this right. Okay. Is this wrong?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Has it given you a weird date?
Yes. Yes, it is. I want to say this is wrong. It's saying it's this Friday.
This Friday?
From 5 to 7.
This Friday from 5 to 7?
Yeah. October 18th. Wow. That's a bit of a bummer. I can't make that.
Oh.
Yeah, I said it on air. I can't make it. It's unfortunate.
And he was going to get the fake pastor outfit and wear it. Darn it.
I won't. Oh, sad day.
There you go.
Sad day. I like trunk or treat, actually.
It's fun.
I really do.
I think someday, once our kids are kind of older and we're not really doing that anymore, I think we'll probably try to do a few. I said we went to a few where people, I don't know if they do that at this one, but people each car has a theme. Is that what, do you guys do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's, maybe that, again, this is someone who didn't do Halloween, so I don't really know if that's the tradition or if that's just this one place did it. But yeah, so I think that could be fun. It could be fun.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be, absolutely. I am really searching this thing out. I feel like I'm wrong. At least I hope I am. You know how you really hope you're wrong?
Yeah.
On something oh man, it would be so much better if it was a different time.
Well, Good Shepherd Lutheran School of Pekin, I see a GSLS trunk or treat on Saturday, October 26th at 1 p.m.
Oh, that's much better.
That says upcoming. Yeah, that's 1 to 3 p.m.
Okay. I'm glad that you were able to correct that.
Yeah. There it is.
There it is.
So that'll be perfect. You can come in the morning to the vendor event at Our Savior Lutheran in Washington, get all the stuff you need for the season, drive back to Pekin on your way home and stop at the trunk or treat.
Yeah, that's right. 1 to 3 p.m. Yep, I got it right here. I found another email. Yep, I just had I don't know what I had. I had it's wrong.
Maybe that was last year's or something. I don't know.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
But that kind of gets us, I guess, into our last segment. So we're gonna.
It does. You ready for it?
Yeah. Church chatter.
Okay, here we are. It's church chatter time. So trunk or treat is coming. October 26th, 1 to 3 p.m. So anyway, so we got that to look forward to. We actually have quite a few things. This coming Sunday is a big Sunday.
Oh.
Do you know what it is?
Harvest Fest?
It's not. Our Harvest Fest is coming up on November 9th.
Oh, November 9th.
Yeah, we pushed it back this year. We made it a Saturday evening.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. So November 9th. Now, November 3rd, we're having a toy and hobby show.
That's right.
And hopefully everybody can come to that. That's from like 9 to 10:30. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm super excited about it, actually, seeing what everybody kind of displays and all that kind of fun and exciting stuff. But on October 20th, this coming Sunday, is LWML Sunday here at St. John Sand Prairie. Now, a lot of times it's the first Sunday of the month in October, but it does not have to be.
Oh.
And so we can actually move. We actually moved it this year to October 20th. That fit our schedule and our life better, which means we're going to see a whole lot of purple, everybody.
That's right. I was just going to try to throw
lots
in.
of purple.
Yep.
That's right. I'll have my purple tie. And then that means I got to remember how to tie a tie. Anyway.
Yes.
We'll also have Good Shepherd Lutheran School. The kids will be singing at the 8 a.m. service.
Oh.
So we're actually super excited about that too. So we're going to have some singing. We're going to have LWML Sunday. So always fantastic. So we actually have quite a bit that we're kind of looking forward to and that we're going to able to be basically talk about and be a part of. So we actually got quite a bit coming up in the next several weeks because we got that. And then we're going to have, again, we're going to have the trunk or treat at Good Shepherd on October 26th, 1 to 3. But no, and then after that on November 3rd, Toy Show, November 9th, Harvest Fest. I know it's at night. We're hoping, again, my hope is to burn that big brush pile. And that's the hope. Now, if the weather stays exactly how it is right now, that will not happen. It's way too dry. It's way too windy. Can't do it. Can't chance it. But hopefully, weather permitting, we'll be able to do that. That's kind of the hope. So anyway, those are the things that are kind of coming up.
Very nice.
And you said October 26th, you have a craft fair thing?
Well, it's a vendor fair. And apparently they got, they said they're completely sold out of tables. They got everything.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be a pretty big event. So, I mean, this is going to be the first year I'm going to try to stop by and take a look because I haven't, seen it. But, I mean, they got, from what I hear, they got a lot of different vendors and stuff, especially with the holidays and stuff coming up. It's a good, if you're looking for unique gifts for people or something, trying to find something be a good one. So,
yeah. Well, again, that's all the things going on right now. I mean, again, we're kind of gunning our way towards November and towards basically, Thanksgiving and then oh my goodness, into Advent and the Christmas season.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I know. It's coming fast. It's coming fast as lightning. So anyway, so there you go. That's all I have.
That's all I got.
Well, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I always say tonight. I don't know when you're listening to it, but thank you for joining us in this podcast of the Parishscope. You guys have a great day. Bye.
Bye.